you. I really appreciate it.
Finally, we got it. We made it.
Yeah, we made it. We made it happen. You know what I'm saying?
We were able to be here.
If you don't mind, if you could introduce yourself and, just kind of tell everybody kind of who you are and, a little bit about what you're about, and we'll dive in.
Cool. Well, my name is Juan Guevara. You guys refer to me as Professor Juan. And we've all met through my gym. I'm a jiu-jitsu instructor. Not all my life. That's how it started almost 30 years ago, but that's how I've come to meet you and most of my students. That's what kind of brought us here. But I was actually, if we go back, I was actually born in another country.
Right. Here. Well, yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned that because that's what I want to dive into.
Yes.
So
I love it.
Where are you from originally, man?
I was originally born in a country that is very popular as of December. So I'm originally from Venezuela. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela. Caracas is the capital of Venezuela. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I came to the States. I migrated here in '87. It was right before my 13th birthday. So I got to grow up there a little bit, and then I finished my teen years here. So I went to school there, meaning went to kindergarten, elementary, and then I finished elementary, 6th grade, and then I came to the States.
Now, what's the city again? It's
Caracas.
Caracas. Okay. So what was that like? Like you say you were there in the very beginning, kind of childhood. Mm-hmm. What was it like as a kid, and just growing up in that city, and how was it? Were you guys outside a lot playing? I mean, what was it like growing up there?
So Caracas is, I would say, the equivalent of New York City.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's the biggest metropolitan town that we have, or city. It's the capital. You ask people from other countries, and nowadays with internet and all that, but back in the day, they probably thought New York City was the capital of the United States. Like a lot of people wouldn't know, but just because it's that big of a city. So, Caracas was very straight up city life. I got to school in buses. It's not like the rural life that we live in here. It was. I don't want to say it was a concrete jungle because it's a little different. Like I always jokingly tell people, like, I grew up climbing mango trees, and stuff like that, because you still have all that within the city.
Right.
But at the same time, I had to get in like 3 different buses to get to my school and stuff.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So did you have siblings
growing up? 2 older brothers, and then the year that I left, my younger sister was born.
Oh, wow.
So she was a kind of a late arrival. But yes, so I have 2 older brothers, and we used to go to school together and stuff like that. So I would go with them. I was always the baby, the youngest boy, and went to elementary school together. And then finally they got out. They're 7 and 5 years older than me. So there was a point where they graduated elementary school, and my mom, at that time, my parents had gotten divorced, and they were put in military school. Well, my mom enrolled them in military school. So
that's a nice way to say it.
They were teenagers. They're like 13, 14, and my mom's single, and my mom's like 5'2", Latina lady, and so she felt it was just best. They were just starting to act up like teenage boys do. So they needed a little bit, and my dad was running my dad was a mechanic. He had a shop, and he was busy running his shop. So anyway, they went to military school. So I stayed in school, and I stayed taking 3 different buses and whatnot in 2nd grade and all that, as my mom was a single mom working, trying to pay the bills. So that was interesting. Tell me
a little bit about that. I want to know what it was like. You got a single mom. She's trying to take care of these kids.
These knuckleheads.
Yeah.
My brothers.
You being the youngest. Yeah. I mean, what was it like being the youngest, and then, you're in a single mom household? And also, how was it different for when you were with your dad, and your dad was there, and then now he isn't there. What was that transition like?
You know what? That was it's weird. I don't know if my brain just did like a self-preservance type of deal where it's not that I don't remember, but I like to tell people that I thought they did a very good job because I don't have any memories of like me having any animosity towards a split or any confusion of why my dad was in the house and all of a sudden he wasn't. So I don't remember exact conversations. So I think they must have done a decent job of like whatever they told me, uh, you know, didn't affect me like that. I do know now later on that it affected my older brothers a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why they started to act up a little bit. Before we started the podcast, we were talking about some things, and I think when the alpha male left the house, I think my older brother and they were like, okay, I'm gonna be the so so I don't. It was the different thing that I remember. It was just obviously the dynamics were, sometimes I'd be at my dad's, in the shop because he was living in the shop, and then I would be with my mom. But that's where the changes began as far as living that life because my mom working all day. Again, I was going through a city like New York City and having to get in 3 different connecting bus lines just to get to the buses, just to get to school.
Mm-hmm.
It was, as you can understand, it was nerve-wracking for my mom. So, I mean, there were times that I would fall asleep, and then I'd have to like get the money for lunch. I was like, oh, I have to figure out which bus I got to take to get back. Well, so sometimes I wouldn't eat lunch because I'd spend my money and trying to figure out what bus. So when my mom would hear those stories, I mean, she started this obviously concern. And then when I would get home, I'd get home at 2, 3, I can't remember now, but then she wouldn't be home for another 2, 3 hours. So,
oh wow.
So my grandmother lived in a different part of town. So by the end of my 2nd grade, my mom said, "Hey, your grandma's gonna, you're gonna go to your grandma's and you'll be here on the weekends." Which again, it's just a bus ride away, which was, whether it's a 15-minute, 10-minute bus ride. So I was like, okay, which it was easier because then my grandmother could take care of me when I got home from work, from school. So, so I did that for a year. I would still fall asleep. But just having somebody for me to come home to was kind of less stressful for my mom. And then after that year was done, they decided to buy a condo in like the mountains. Like it was like 30 minutes. It would be like the equivalent of like where I live now in Canton to Atlanta, like a 30, 40-minute drive. But it was kind of up the mountains. So it was the town is called San Antonio. And my grandmother and my uncle bought a place there, and then I went to live there with them. So it was a little different then. Then I had like a little, it's not like a school bus, but it was like a little van that you'd pay, and then they come pick you up and they take you to school. And I always went to Catholic school. That's mostly the religion there. So,
so living in this town compared to being in the city, I mean, what was that like? I mean, I know that had to be a little bit of a transition as well for you, right? And probably also for your brother. Were your brothers going to this other school out, or is just you?
They were already they're already in the military school.
Okay.
Yeah. Which it was also a ways from. It was in the mountains. San Antonio actually ended up being like an in between from where the military school was. So we would go see my brothers on the weekends, but it was definitely different. I mean, you're talking about a city similar to like an Atlanta, like I said, New York City, or to a city like Woodstock, I guess, would be a little bit more comparative as far as the size. And but even the difference would be, I would say, it's just it being such a smaller town. Like I would tell my grandma, "Hey, we're gonna go, down the main road, and we're gonna go to this place and go that place." And it wasn't such a big deal. However, the place where we lived was really nice. We had a tennis court, basketball court, and pool, which I know it sounds super fancy, but you get these condos and these high rises to like 14, 15 stories. It's a little different than the condos that we have here. So you have this community all living, and most condos like that would have those the ability or the certain things like a park where you play or so I didn't always have to go too far until I got a little bit older, and then I could be like, hey, I want to go to the bakery. We're gonna walk to the bakery and get and then we're going to the bakery on our own or whatever. But it was
Yeah.
definitely a little bit different.
What about dynamically within your family? Like you are no longer in the house with your, brothers and your mom. You're now out with your
Yeah,
grandmom and uncle, right?
yeah.
So
I don't
that's a
want to,
little different.
for sure. Like, I don't want to say it's a different culture here, but I
There was
think,
no big difference, really.
well, I think, and maybe this is just my opinion,
Yeah.
but like I think in the States, at least when I came, how many years ago that it's now, almost 40. I think that the standard like plan culture was you go through elementary, middle, high school, and then college is next step, and then you turn it 17, 18, you go to college, and the
Yeah.
parents are like, all right, like you're in college, your way. And if you don't, and if you did, at least back then, I mean, if you didn't do that, it was just kind of weird. You were staying at home, or what is a 21-year-old doing living at home? You smooching from your parents or whatever, you're living off your parents. And I think maybe again, that's just an opinion, but I think in a lot of places outside the States is a little bit different where families are not so eager to like just spread and like send you off. And
Right.
so, because a lot of families help each other out. Obviously, the United States is the most powerful, richest country in the world. So I think other places find ways and figure out ways to help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that we don't do that here, but I guess I'm trying to compare the dynamics that you're asking me. So I think, families step up. My grandmother is like, hey, if you need, we can take care of him, and then they work out that, like I said, on the weekends, you can take the bus down,
Right.
go spend some time with you, or you can come up. So at that time, I didn't think anything of it. I was a
Okay.
kid.
Right.
Now
And you didn't miss your mom or anything?
oh yeah, but and
Yeah.
I'm getting to that now.
Yeah, yeah.
Now the conversations that went, that they didn't tell me about that were had, I haven't, my mom's like, yeah, we talked about it, but I don't know how that might have gone. Like, can you please keep him? And my grandmother would be like, I don't know, man, he's a little shit. I don't know if I want him. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of what happened. That's not what was kind of conveyed to me, but
right.
but they worked it out. And my aunt, my mom's sister, was in the same town, and I had a cousin that was the same age as I am, so it kind of worked out. I had more family access in that town than before, but yeah, I mean, it was weird. Like, yeah, I miss my mom, but I definitely had my grandmother, my uncle, I had an aunt, I had another uncle, and we were always getting together before that. So I think it was really, I understood what was going on.
Right.
They were always really good at explaining to me.
Yeah.
So did I miss my mom? Yes, but I kind of knew why.
Why,
I kind of
yeah.
understood that this is just how things are.
Right.
So I never took it out on my mom, like, how dare you not be present. I think if parents, when parents do a good job of communicating with their kids, and letting them understand situationally why things have to be a certain way, I think it helps.
Yeah. Now,
I don't have any kids yet, so maybe I'm wrong.
You got furry kids. What about your dad? Like, you say your dad got a divorce to your mom, and you were now living out with your grandmom and your uncle, and y'all was working it out. What about that relationship? How did that change at all when he moved out of the house? Was it somewhat different now that he was somewhere else, and then your mom was here and there? What was that like?
So, yeah, my dad had if I can talk a little bit about my dad had a kind of a rough going, I think more rougher than most. My dad was one of, I believe it was 7 boys. And then he lost one of his brothers in a car accident in which he was driving as a younger teenage kid. So, I can only imagine that my dad felt, some kind of guilt. I don't have the exact details of what happened then, but then moving forward, he's married to his first wife. They're in their honeymoon, and they're in California with a cousin, I believe, or somebody he knew, and then they get in a car wreck, and then she basically dies in his arms in their honeymoon. So my dad had been through a lot, and then he meets my mom because back then you had international operators, meaning you make a call, and kind of like the switch was like, you know, you give a number and then or however, and they were bilingual, so you know, so kind of that's how they met. And then they got married, and he adopted my two brothers, no problem. Like it was like, that's what you do. That's what a man does. I'm gonna take. So so I also understood that he had to run his shop and whatnot, and so it was. I guess it was kind of weird that I didn't see him as much, but any chance that we could, I could see him. But because of certain maybe business decisions, smart or not, he lost the shop, and which is what brought me to the United States. So his brothers, my dad had been in the States before. He went to mechanical school here. He was bilingual already, and then his brother was already here. So when he decided to move to the States, because like I said, he lost the shop there. And my brother said, "Hey, just come here, and then we'll run my business together." So I do remember my dad showing up to my school to let me know that he was going to move away, and that was pretty sad. It was like I was in the 5th grade. I think it was about a year before I moved up here. So that was really. I remember it was just kind of weird. I was like, when am I going to see my dad? Am I going to see my dad?
Right.
And again, back then it wasn't like, video call with some dad or like, I mean, so that was different. Like I said, I don't know if my brain kind of has blocked out some of those sad feelings, because of course I was sad that my dad was leaving.
Yeah.
But I think it was always explained to us that we were still going to be, loved, and they were. I don't know if this is normal for most people, but my dad and my mom's side of the family were very close, even after the divorce. Like my grandmother on my mom's side and my dad were like best friends.
Okay.
Like my grandmother went to visit my dad here, just her and my dad. Like they were like super tight. So that's what I'm saying. Our families, it wasn't like your typical divorce that it's like F you, I hate you, I hate you. It was really sad when it comes. But you do develop these relationships. Like my aunt, my mom's sister, and her husband and my dad were like best friends. So none of that like faded. Like to the point that this is pertinent to the story, but to the point that when my mom was visiting me 2 Christmases ago, my aunt came, and she's 80, 81. And my dad came to visit. So it was like my mom, my aunt, and my dad with his now wife of 30 years, and they were all like hanging out and catching up, So, which I think is pretty cool.
That is,
So my dad moves here, and then I'm like, I guess that's what he's got to do. But then a year later is when my uncle, his brother, came down to Venezuela to visit some of his family. And then he came up to my mom, or called my mom, however the details were. He said, "Hey, let me talk to you, because his dad is super depressed." And so I wanted to offer, if I bring him with me, so he can go live with his dad. You come into the States, you learn the language. So that's how that was presented to my mom and my family.
I see.
That's how it came up here.
I was going to ask, like, when did this start? This transition of wanting to move to the States started to kind of bubble up.
It was never in the it wasn't like a dream of mine.
Right.
I was like, I'm gonna go to the States. But I'll say this, and I've had conversations with my mom about this. Like, she felt guilty because she actually left it up to me. I was 12 at the time, so she was like, "Hey, your uncle said this. He wants to take you over there. Your dad's by himself, and so what do you want to do? What do you think?" So I do remember clearly thinking, you know what? My mom just had my sister. My sister was a few months old. My 2 brothers, the rest of the family. And I was thinking my dad's here by himself with maybe my uncle, but I was like, that was the way I thought about it. And I told my mom, I was like, well, if you got, everybody else here and he's by himself, like maybe I should go.
Right.
So that's kind of how that worked out. I'm sure there were times that my mom regretted, letting me make that decision, but that's how it worked out. But I think a funny story to that is my uncle didn't tell my dad. And I think back, and my dad must have been, my dad, let's see, I was 12, and my dad must have been late 30s. Yeah, it was like late 30s. So my dad's thinking he's coming to pick my uncle from the airport, and then all of a sudden, here's your son.
Here you go.
Take care of your son. That had to have been kind of tough. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he was excited, but there
he
was
had
also
to adjust his life. He's got a kid. He's got to put into his life now.
To the point that at the time back then, you have apartment. He lived in an apartment where it was 18 and older. Like there were places that back then they don't have this anymore. That I don't think they do. So that was an immediate change that we had to like. When when I got in, he was trying to hide me from people, and I didn't understand. I was like, what's going on? Why are you? And then finally he told me, he's like, well, there are places here that you can't have any kids. And I was like, and I remember telling him, I was like, well, that explains why there are a bunch of old people here, man. I thought you were like the youngest people here. And there were some times that you get in the elevator and the old people would just like be looking at me like, you know. So you got to a point that they were like, yeah, you got to go. Like, we know you got a kid here.
Yeah.
So, but it was life-changing for him, you know, as well. So, and that was kind of, it was cool, but it was different. I'm in a place, I don't speak the language. My dad.
Right.
There's old people are mean mugging me. I'm like, what?
Now, did you speak any English at all when you moved here?
Zero.
Okay.
Zero. And my dad was very, he had a like old school of teaching and stuff. And like we'd go somewhere and I'd be like, I want this. And he's like, well, go ask for it.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't speak the language. I was like, you gotta figure it out. Like, if I'm not here, what are you gonna do? And that might have been a little extreme, but I think we need a little bit of that. It's gotta be a little bit of balance where like I understand what he was doing. I learned a lot from my dad. So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't speak any English, which was rough. You're a 12-year-old, you want to go out and have fun with kids or whatever, but you don't communicate. So that was all of a sudden like they're not wanting to hang out with me because I'm the weird guy that doesn't speak the language.
Right.
And back then, it's not like we didn't have any immigration, but it wasn't like we have nowadays.
Right.
So to give you an idea, when I first started middle school, was where I started. I finally started middle school like 3 months later. It was, I'll never forget, it was around Thanksgiving because I was like, what's going on with all those turkeys? We didn't have Thanksgiving in Venezuela, so I'm like, what's going on? But I was one of 2 Hispanics in the school, and there were maybe like a handful of Black people. So this was in Lawrenceville, Georgia, about 40 years ago. So that was weird. I'm glad I didn't speak the language because I'm sure a lot of what was said was not nice. You can just tell by somebody's face when they're not being nice to you. But I remember talking to my dad and my uncle about it, and they would just ask me, say, well, this means this, but do you think you're that? And I'll be like, well, no. It's like, okay, then don't worry about it. So that was kind of how I kind of dealt with that.
Now, being in Venezuela, it's like everything's different. Like culture, food, everything's just so many things are just different.
Food,
The food, yes. Well, we'll talk about that. And then all of a sudden, you're plopped here in the States. You don't speak the language. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to figure things out. Everything's different. The people look different. The food is different.
Yes.
Everything. So what was that transition like? I know you told me you started kind of dive in it a little bit, but was that challenging for you transitioning to just a very much different everything, from what you're used to?
Yes, it was. I think the hardest for me was going from the city to even like a small town that you have a lot of, access to, like buses and so you can walk down to a bakery. There's a bakery in every corner. And here you're living in the suburbs in an apartment complex and you have to drive 10 minutes just to go to the store or whatever. So not having access to a lot of things and not having like a juice stand in a corner or whatever, like you can always go somewhere and have fresh juice or have, that was kind of weird. So it almost felt like you were cooped up, just in your apartment or wherever you live, especially when you can't drive. So that was definitely different.
I imagine it was very boring.
When I talk about boring, like back then, I think we must have maybe 8 channels in the TV,
Wow.
And there was no Spanish channels. I mean, it's just, so yeah, it was, you don't have any of these, phones and whatnot. So you basically like as a kid in Venezuela, it was the same thing. Like I was, you got home, when I got home, it was like, I remember when my parents were together, when we got home, you do your homework. And then it was like, get out, go outside. I don't want to see you till it starts to get dark. And then that's dinner time. You come in, you shower.
Right.
But, we didn't have any of that. I remember having maybe like an Atari, I think is the first one that, like Christmas. But so it was all encouraged to be outside. So that was kind of similar. The problem is when you don't speak the language, it makes it very hard. So you try and so I was very depressed for a long time. Like as a kid, I would write letters, not write letters, but write letters, mail them. My mom would get them like in a week. So I mean, like to have a conversation, unless you're calling, right? But if you're writing letters, it would take like maybe 2 weeks for you to hear back from.
Right.
And then just having calls, it just wasn't as easy as now. It was expensive, so it was not something that we could do regularly. But it was very, very lonely. You go from having all these friends and having mostly your family, to like my dad's working, sometimes nights. He was sometimes work. Cause my uncle had a security company, like security guards. I don't know. I mean, you have security guards now, but back then it was more common to have like security guards at the entrance of an apartment complex or whatever.
Right.
So my dad a lot of times worked the graveyard shift, just supervising, making sure that the security guards were there. They weren't falling asleep. They were doing what they were supposed to do. So a lot of times, he would either sleeping during the day or like he wasn't there at night. So yeah, it was fucking boring, man. Gotta find something to do, man. I'm like,
yeah.
So starting school was exciting for me because I'm like, I want to be around people. I want to be around kids. And I'll never forget that the only other guy that was Hispanic was a Cuban guy, and we didn't get to see each other as much, but it was nice to be able to talk to him. But kind of forces you to learn the language. Like I started in school in November, and by May,
you were
6 months later. Speaking. 6 months later, I was not I wasn't, but I could understand it and I could communicate. So which was those were rough. That first year was rough as far as like just depression and all that. I guess a kid, I was just like, I would write my mom letters like, I hate it. This is the worst thing ever. Like, boo, America. Everybody says America.
Right.
Like, you don't speak the language. I'm not getting out. My dad doesn't have the chance to spend some time with me. So it was rough. But starting school was a game changer. It worked out. It was really cool. Matter of fact, I got to tell you, I found my English, the first teacher that I had back then. I don't have to do it still. They have you'd have your homeroom teacher.
Yeah.
And then you have like,
I don't know what they do now, but I remember when that was happening.
Right. And then you had like your 4 like other teachers and then you had you had groups. So I'll never forget, her name is Miss Holzenbeck. She was the nicest lady ever, the coolest. Everybody loved her. So I was in her homeroom class, which was fantastic. She was the English and the science teacher. And my duties were to spend an hour with another student, and with that student would do like flashcards and just basically help me learn English. And the rest was just you sit your ass down and try to pick it up and try to do whatever. Maybe things have changed by now. There's a lot more, Hispanics around. But so I'll never forget, I'm like sitting in her science class, and she must have seen the level of boredom in my face. And she was dropping quizzes, and she drops this quiz in my face. Well, my face on the desk, and then I look up, and she's like, kind of like, I mean, might as well. And I kind of understood. I was like, yes, thank you. Give me something to do. I don't care. So the next day, she comes in, and she gives me a book. And I was like, I look at her, and I was like, okay. I go to my next class. I get books. Well, that's different. I go to my next class and learn books. I'm like, why are they giving me these books? I don't fucking understand it. So later on, when we could communicate better, she said, I saw you there. You look pathetic. So I was like, let me give him something to do. And we were doing a test on like the planets in the solar system. So she was like, to my surprise, I'm grading all the tests, and you got the highest score out of the whole class.
What?
And I was like, what? Well, I look back and I'm like, the names are similar, right? They don't change a whole lot. So to me, it was actually fun because I was like, oh, I can kind of understand what the hell's going on. And she was like, you got the highest grade in the class. So I was like, she was like, well, F this. Now this kid's going to have books now. Like, I was like, oh, that explains why everybody's is getting books. And she was like, yeah, I told the other teachers, like, and she told me this. She's like, just because he doesn't speak in English doesn't mean he's stupid. Like, this kid is very smart. He just doesn't speak the language.
English,
So I was like, okay. So that explained a lot. But at the end of the year, it was really cool. I was able to learn English, and I got all A's and 1C
Wow.
in math. I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm out. Anyway, I'm just saying. Just saying.
Nice.
But I'll never forget. I was
Yeah.
grounded the whole summer because I got to see math. Math was my dad's favorite subject.
Oh.
He's like, of all the languages, like math is pretty universal.
Universal.
Like, how do you get A's in every other class except math?
He's like, what?
Well, math, there's certain things that we do differently. Like, I don't know if, but in division, like there's different ways that we use division. So like sometimes I would just get confused. But anyway, but yeah, I spent the whole summer grounded after learning English in 5-6 months, getting 5 A's, and then that was my dad. He was
That's
straight.
wild. That's wild. So let me ask you this. So you're transitioning through your middle school, right? You learn English, right? And then I would imagine that you're starting to adjust more to American life and just getting friends and getting into stuff, whatever. So tell me a little bit more about like high school, like when you're in middle school, you've learned the language, you're doing, I would say, pretty well in school as far as your grades are concerned.
I was doing pretty good.
Tell me about, as you got older, you transitioned to high school, were you starting to kind of get used to the States and be okay with being here, or did you still like want to go back, or what was that like?
I always wanted to go back and see my family, which that ended up finally happening when I graduated. My mom ended up graduated high school. She gave me, a trip to go back and visit. But
nice.
But I found more of a home and school because home, my dad was never available. Not because he was an awful dad. He he was working. Right?
Yeah.
So I spent as much time at school as possible. So to the point that I'd ask Miss Olsen, I was like, how do I? It's like, well, if you want to, why don't you go for the basketball team, and then they have practices after school. So then, and then you have games. And I was like, all right. So I tried out for the basketball team. I made the basketball team. I was always fairly athletic. So made more friends, and because now and people kind of you're in the basketball team, so you kind of like you're one of the basketball players. So so I got to meet more people. I got to meet my best friend at the time. And then it was the same thing when I got to high school. High school was just a much bigger, obviously, school than middle school. But I was starting to dig the all the sports that were available. I was really into sports, and the school ended up being like my second home. So I was like, you know what? I guess if I do all these sports, I'm going to be having to practice after school. So then I won't be at home miserable as much as before. So I was like, okay. So I was at school from most of the time, from 7 to 7. I played in high school, basketball, football, baseball. I ran track. Like my senior year, I cheered one year. So I was like, I would never wanted to come home to just be bored. Right? Yeah, like I said, it's not like we had phones and none of that. So I'm like, yeah. So that was my, like, sometimes I would just go to school and I would shower at school in the morning, and like so school for me was great. You ask my wife, she's like, school was horrible for me. And I'm like, well, different situations.
Different perspectives, yeah.
But then I kind of started to just fit in more, and it become more I started to really like the culture of, like I said, I was really involved in athletics, and I was really looking forward to like maybe college, and I was being looked to play maybe football because I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to pay for college. So I was looking for outlets to find a way to go to college. So I know football was an option, and then we had which is part of the reason why I cheered. We had one of a cheerleader coach or something from Georgia State came, and they were trying to recruit because there weren't any guy cheerleaders in high school. Matter of fact, the first one in the whole county of Gwinnett was Brian, he cheered the year before, and then he talked me into cheering because we had talked about, I'm looking for a football, I'm looking for a scholarship so I can pay for college. So he's like, dude, like, you should cheer. Like, you're pretty athletic. And I'm like, well, why would I need to get a scholarship? So the coach that came is like, you basically need to do 3 things, and then you basically will give you a scholarship. So I was like,
wow, okay.
So I can do those. So he's like, all right, well, if you want to cheer some this year, then that'll be easier. So anyway, so that was another outlet that I was looking. It's like, I'm going to get in college somehow. Sorry, I got itchy nose. So I was just enthralled with like as much activities as I could do in high school. Because again, nothing against my dad. I just, home for me was boring. I'm not gonna just sit at my home. I would stay at school. I was
Right.
always looking for shit to do in school, man. Like
Yeah.
so all the coaches knew me. Like it was just like, it was a second home. And I being in Venezuela around a lot of people, and then all of a sudden being isolated, cooped up in a place for a few months, it's brutal. So I just didn't want any of that shit. I was like, I need
Yeah.
to get back to, I like people. I like hanging around with people. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so to me, it was high school was great.
Yeah.
I love high school.
So you said that your mom got you a graduation gift to go back to Venezuela.
Yep.
And that was your first time going back in what, since you were
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was that like? I mean, I would imagine things changed, and that yeah.
Just before you keep going, you got 10 minutes left of recording time on this phone. I don't know if you have it dump off or anything.
Oh, yeah, it's probably just getting ready to be out of memory.
You're probably going to need to do a part 1, part 2.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know you only got 10 minutes left on this.
No problem. Appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. But yeah, so you went back to Venezuela, and I mean, 6 years have been gone. So what was that like, going back and seeing everybody and seeing family and seeing the sights? What was that like?
So I might use the 10 minutes because
That's cool.
I got to preface that answer. So so in the meantime, my dad, in my junior year, my dad meets someone. And to make a long story short, because it could be another hour, we started clashing heads a little bit. So
because he met someone?
Well, because he met someone, but now she's living with us.
Oh, okay.
So I'm my dad, I'm sure is thinking he could use a mother figure, right? I already had a mom, didn't matter. But things all of a sudden started to change. Like I can't eat everything in the refrigerator anymore, which I get. I'm just saying, but I was like, that's a change. I couldn't sneak out and go see my girlfriend at night because she's telling on me. Like, so a lot of things started to change, and I'm like, this is bullshit. What's you and I got on great, Dad. What's going on, man? What's going on here, man?
Right.
So there were a lot of things that were changing, and like I said, I could go into another hour of details. But to make a long story short, at the time, my dad and I were really butting heads, and to the point where before Fist flew, which I never got to that point, and one time, and I'll never forget, he just said, like, you know what, if blah, 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 I'll send your ass back. And I'm like, at that point, I was like, I left everything for you. And at the time, I felt like, you want to send me back for pussy. That's fucked up. So that's how I felt at the time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I thought, you know what, I'm out. Like, I'll figure it out. So we had, a lot of shit had happened. Like, I got jumped in high school, and like a lot of stuff went on. But so I left, and my mom didn't agree with a lot of the way my dad was handling things. I give you my baby, and now he's out in the streets. Like, what the fuck? Like, so there's a lot of shit that I could be going on about that. But needless to say, I'll get back to the trip to Venezuela. I lived out of my car for time because I was like, I'm just gonna sleep in my car. I'll fucking go to school. I'll shower. I can eat there. I got a job. My first job was working at Chuck E. Cheese's, by the way.
Nice.
Like, I was flipping in pizzas. Yeah.
Free pizza.
Every once in a while, I would jump in the costumes and whatnot. But so I was like, hey, I got to do what you got to do. So and then I was living with a friend, paying rent for her parents. So, but it was hard because I was having scouts come and look at you, football and coaches trying to.
Okay.
So I had to, make sure that I made my practices, but at the same time I had to make work. And so at some point, like, it didn't work out with the family that I was living because I was having to work till close. I had a dog that woke the whole fucking neighborhood every time I got home. It would get pissed off at me, and I'm like, well, I have to work to pay you rent, and that's the only time I can work because I'm at practice till 4, 5, 6, and then I got to come close. So it didn't work out. So then I run into my brother, who at the time, now my two brothers have already come back to the States. They were born in the States from my mom's first marriage. So I was sleeping in my car in the parking lot of the same apartment complex because that's what I knew. That's where I lived. And then somebody's knocking on my window, and it's my brother. And I'm like, I hadn't seen my brother in a while because he'd come to stay, but with my dad, so he left. I hadn't seen him in like a year, months. I don't know. And then he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I was like, "What are you doing? I haven't seen you in months." He's like, "I live here." I was like, "You live here?" It's like, "Fuck, I've been sleeping in my car, man. What do you mean you live here?" But again, you didn't have
Right. There's no way for you to know
unless
that
you're sending smoke signals, you don't know. So anyway, so I go stay with my brother, who is the middle brother, and he was different. And at that age, man, you're like early 20s. He's basically just partying and doing all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
So one night he comes in at like 1 morning. It's a Thursday, I never forget, because I had a Friday and there was some people coming to watch the game. He's like, "Yo, we gotta go. We're getting evicted." I'm like, "What? I'm like, "What do you mean we're getting evicted? I'm giving you all my check, all my money. What have you been doing? We gotta go. So I'm like, "Fuck." So we're getting evicted. He only had like a waterbed and like 2 chairs. It was some shit. Anyway, so we load this truck and we show up to his girlfriend's apartment that lived in the same apartment complex, by the way. And, he's going in and I'm about to go in. He's like, "You can't stay here." I'm like,
"Oh."
I was like, you could have told me this before I helped you load the truck. With your fucking waterbed."
Exactly, yeah.
So anyway, so he's like, "Just go back to the car and then we'll figure some shit out." So anyway, it was a lot of shit going on. So when my mom, gets me this graduation trip, it was like, to the point that I went for like 6 months. I was supposed to be going, because I'd already was planning on playing football in college in Tennessee, and not U of Tennessee, but like a small college in Tennessee. And I was gonna come back. I talked to the coach and I was gonna come back and whatever, a couple weeks, whatever it was, I don't remember. Man, I was gone for like 6 months. Like, I got down to Venezuela and it was like,
yes,
like my family's there, a beach, I'm older, like, you partying, and like, if you're coming from the States, women loved you. Anyway, I was like 18-year-old kid. I'm like, shit, I'm not going back anytime soon. I'm like, to the point that finally my grandma was like, "You gotta do some shit. You gotta do something. You're not like some fucking party here for months." And my mom was like, "You gotta figure something out." So anyway, so I came back. But so it was, man, I'll never forget that. I was just bawling, crying. I mean, 6 years of a lot of things going on. So I go back and got to see my aunt, my family. And, so needless to say, it was re-energizing. But I mean, it was home, right?
That's awesome.
So.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, we're going to wrap right there, man, but we're going to do this again because I want to get part 2. I want to find out more.
To more juices.
Yeah, I want to get more to the essence of how we ended up here in this seat with that shirt.
Yeah. Yes.
What I'm saying? So I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the time, and definitely we're going to do this again soon.
I enjoyed it, man. Figured out.
Right.